All right, good morning, everyone. I am super excited to share with you this morning. My name is Sarah Jacobson, and I am a startup coach, and I help people get started with the things that they want to be doing. So that might be starting a business, that might be starting something new, that might be setting a new goal, or some progress that you want to make in a project at home. It might be something big that you want to tackle, like you want to start homeschooling, and how do I get started with that successfully? I love helping people get started, and if you're starting a business, that's really my sweet spot. Again, my name is Sarah Jacobson, and I'm so glad that you are here with me watching this video. I want to help you avoid the mistakes that I made when I was starting out with my business and getting started with a big project. And I want to help you have more success sooner, and not have to go through trial and error over and over and over again. So if you're watching this live or in the future, welcome. We're going to cover 4 main topics today. One being why regular old goals that you hear about all the time don't really work. Why you should do what I call a 90-day sprint instead. How to create your 90-day sprint. I'm going to go over that very briefly. And then why this is important when you're building a business or really starting anything new, to learn this skill of a 90-day sprint. So let's jump right in. Why don't goals work? Well, goals don't really work because in a general sense, goals, when you say something like, I want to hit 1,000 followers on Instagram, or I want to lose this much weight, or I want to accomplish this specific thing, that goal is a yes or no answer. Either you do it or you don't. And that leaves no room for error. And it leaves no room for, what if you make 950 followers on your Instagram? That goal tells you in your mind and your mindset that you failed. But really, you went from 0 to 950, and that's a really good thing. And you've learned all along the way how to get those followers. To get to 950 followers. Let's say you only lose 8 pounds instead of 10 pounds. Your brain in that goal is going to tell you you failed. But the reality is you lost 8 pounds and you did the work and you learned what you have to do to continue to lose that weight. That's worth celebrating. So goals only are for yes, no answers, and they don't leave a lot of room for error. Also, I find a lot of times that when people set a goal like I want to lose 10 pounds or I want to get 1,000 followers on my Instagram, those goals aren't necessarily aligned with who you are and what your reality is right now. One of the biblical principles that's really come to my mind over the last few months is that we have to align what we want to do with the reality of where we are right now. We can dream big, and at the same time, we need to take an inventory of where are we right now? What do I have? What are my abilities? What are my limitations? What skills do I have already possessed that help me get to this goal? And taking that inventory is really a big part of setting goals. And just setting a goal like I want to lose 10 pounds or I want to get to 1,000 followers doesn't ground us in the reality of where we are. Someone who is just starting out in business and has no logo, no social media presence, no mission, no vision, they have no business trying to set a goal to go from 0 to 1,000 followers. That's not the right goal for them at this time. They need to be grounded in the reality that there's a bunch of work to do before you get to 1,000 followers, before you set that as a goal. It also may be that if you want to lose 10 pounds, that you've got to do some work before you can do that. Maybe you don't have any walking shoes and you've got to find some really good shoes that are going to help you be able to get some exercise to be able to lose 10 pounds. So sometimes goals that we set, like I want to lose 10 pounds, there's actually like 10 steps that you need to do before that to be ready to set that goal. And so we want to be careful with setting goals because sometimes we aren't grounded in the reality of where we are right now. The other thing that James Clear talks about in his book, Atomic Habits, which I really love and I highly recommend, is that you can create a lot of motion with goals, meaning you can look really busy, you can get a lot of stuff crossed off your to-do list. You can stay busy all day at work. Or you could be busy trying to lose 10 pounds, but you're actually not doing the right work, which is action. We want to be taking action on our goals and not just creating this busyness. And we do that a lot when we're starting out in business, where we think we're doing the right things, where we're creating a lot of motion of I'm going to create a logo and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that, but it's actually not the right work to be doing right now. And so it's actually counterintuitive, and it's taking us away from our goal instead of leading us toward it. The other thing that is hard with goals is they don't inherently have a plan attached with them. Like I said before, I want to get to 1,000 followers, or I want to lose 10 pounds, or whatever your goal is. That doesn't tell me how you're going to get there. So then when you sit down at your computer, or you get those shoes on ready to go to work out, you don't actually have a plan that's going to carry you through to meet that goal. A goal isn't enough to change what you actually want to change and create what you actually want to create, because you don't have a system around it. And what James Clear also talks about in Atomic Habits is you don't rise to the level of your goal, meaning you're not going to suddenly wake up one day and I've never lost weight before, I've never gotten 1,000 followers before on my Instagram, and all of a sudden magically today you're going to be able to do that. You're not going to rise to the level of your aspirational goal. What you're going to do is you're going to fall back to the systems that you've always had. And if you don't have a good system already in place, built and ready to go to get you to that goal, you're never going to get there, because you're going to always fall back to your habits. You're always going to fall back to the system that you already have established. The other thing that's really important is goals don't work with the way your mind is wired, the way your brain is wired. Like I said, you're not going to just magically wake up one morning and all of a sudden today your mind and body are going to be able to get 1,000 followers just because you decided that was going to be today. That's not how it works. You have to, in your mind, actually see a path, the stepping stones of how you're going to get to where you are right now to where you want to be. You have to create that. Some people call it visualizing. I call it making a plan. How am I going to get from this point where I am right now to where I want to be? I have to create that so my brain can visualize it and picture it. And then your brain actually says, oh, we can do that. And it releases us from all of the hindrances that we've had in the past, keeping us from being able to meet that goal. That's why goals don't work. There's a lot of other reasons, but those are the big ones why goals in general don't work. And so here's what I'd like to offer you to do instead, and what has been a game changer for me in the last year, is instead of setting some long-term aspirational goal that has no plan attached to it, that doesn't actually prep me for being able to do the work, I have started doing a 90-day sprint, and I've created a plan and a program that helps you create your own 90-day sprint, which focuses on one big thing for a very short period of time. Short-term goals, short-term plans, short-term 90-day sprints makes it easier for your brain to visualize it. Remember, I mentioned that you have to make your brain see where you want to go. And a 90-day period is a really good time frame to help your plan to see. Your brain can't see all the way to Christmas. Your brain can't see all the way into next year. We learned in 2020 that just, life changes too rapidly. We can't control all of those factors. But if we shorten that time frame to focusing on something for a short period of time, our brains can conceptualize that and we can control it a little bit more easily. It also creates a sense of urgency. Maybe you've experienced at the end of the year, you've had a big goal that you want to accomplish. You've got Christmas presents to wrap, and you've got, parties to plan, and a trip over Christmas to plan, and all these things to do. And there's just this urgency in that month of December that you have to get it done because it has to be done by December 31st. You can create that sense of urgency. Instead of it just being one time a year, you can create it 4 times a year. And help you get so much more done and completed and accomplished in a shorter period of time. Short-term deadlines also keep you motivated. When you're like, I only have to do this for 3 months, you are much more likely to be able to do it. It creates that year-end crunch kind of all year long. not the stress of that. Don't associate it with the stress of December and all the emotions that go around Christmas time, but associate it with that sense of urgency to get things done. That's positive stress for you. The other thing that happens when you create a 90-day sprint is that every day matters. If you create a year-long plan, a random Tuesday doesn't really matter. If I don't want to do anything today, it doesn't really matter because my goal is so far in the future, this random Tuesday doesn't matter. But when you're in a 90-day sprint, you've only got 90 days and every day counts. I can't take a random Tuesday off just because I want to. A 90-day sprint also, this plan that I have to help you create your 90-day sprint gives you all the pieces and parts that you need. Remember I told you when you're creating a goal, it's just a goal. There's no plan associated with it. Well, a 90-day sprint has all the pieces that you need, including breaking down the plan into small bite-sized pieces so that you can be successful, because your brain needs to see that plan in order to be able to carry it out. I mentioned it before, but a 90-day sprint makes your time and energy and goal more predictable and controllable. You can more easily see that you're having success when you break it into smaller pieces and put it in a smaller time frame. You can also add to the evidence that you know that you can be successful. Sometimes when you make a goal that's so big and so lofty and so long term, you can't actually pile up the evidence that you need to show, hey, yeah, I can actually do this goal. But when you have a 90-day sprint, at the end of each week, you're looking at what did I accomplish? How far did I come on this goal, on this one area of focus? And you can pile up that evidence. And I actually encourage my clients to have an evidence sheet. What have I done? Because our brains like to trick us. They like to keep us safe, and our brains are designed and wired to keep us back here in this safe status quo. But when we have a short-term sprint, we can actually build up evidence that proves our brain wrong. And we can say, hey, I've got this piece of paper here that shows all of the things that I've been able to accomplish. So brain, it's time for you to stop having an inner critic and telling me that I can't do it, because I actually can. I have proof here. And a 90-day sprint allows us to build up that proof that we need. It also provides stability. Even if you do take a random Tuesday off, or you have an off day and things don't go right, you can get back into this system that you've already created and get back on track much more quickly. When you just have a goal, I want to get to 1,000 followers, and you aren't meeting that goal, you aren't getting where you want to be, or you aren't losing the weight that you want to lose, the only thing that you have to fall back on is that you're not meeting that goal. And so you get in this loop in your brain of, well, I just can't do it. I'm a failure. I don't have any evidence to show that I'm going to be able to make that goal. Well, when you do a 90-day sprint, you've got like this safety net, this system that tells you, oh yeah, I do have evidence that I can do this. I am making progress. I'm on my way to having 1,000 followers. I'm on my way. I'm not there yet, but I have all this evidence to show me that I can do it. And I have a system, so when I get off and I have a bad day and I get distracted and I lose followers instead of gain them, I just go back to my system. I'm not having to make decisions every day about what I'm going to do. I go back to the system because I already made the plan at the beginning. The other couple of things that I love about a 90-day sprint is that it's easily communicated to others so they can offer you accountability and help and support. Sometimes with a goal, when you say, oh, I have, 1,000 followers, I want to get to 1,000 followers, they're like, okay, I'll follow you. And that's the only help that they can give you. Well, that's only one follower and they may not be your ideal client, so that doesn't actually really help. But if you have this 90-day focus where it's like, I want to learn how to get followers versus I just want to have 1,000 followers. I want to learn how to gain followers and get the right kind of followers who are actually going to buy my product. Then other people can ask questions. Well, what does that look like? Well, it looks like I need to work every day for 4 hours doing this kind of work. And then the person can say, well, how can I support you in that? Well, you can call me and make sure that I'm getting up and doing that work. Or, maybe you could watch my kids so I'd have a free Saturday morning to do this work. The 90-day sprint invites more help and support over the long term. The other thing that I really love, and I'm not going to go a lot into this today, but is when you do a 90-day sprint, part of what you're committing to is I'm going to become, along the way, the kind of person who has 1,000 followers. I don't have them yet. I'm not there yet, but I'm on my way. So I'm going to start behaving the way someone would who does have 1,000 followers. Same thing if you want to lose weight. I want to lose 10 pounds. Okay, so what do people do? How do they act? What do they believe about themselves who have already lost 10 pounds? Let's start doing that today. Let's not wait until the end that you've accomplished some lofty goal. Let's start behaving that way today. And that helps our brains learn, hey, I can actually do this. I read this really great book. I actually have it right here at the beginning of this year, and I'm going to add it to my list to read at the beginning of every year. It's called Say Yes by an artist and a writer. He's an excellent writer, Scott Erickson. And what he talks about in that book is instead of saying, I don't have 1,000 followers, I haven't lost 3 pounds, is I'm on my way. I'm on my way to being able to do that. And let's start talking about that with that kind of vocabulary right now. Okay, so we know why goals in and of themselves don't work. We know what we want to do instead, which is create this 90-day sprint, create some urgency, gives our brain a way of seeing a pathway to what we want to be accomplishing. So how do you create your 90-day sprint? Well, there are some really big parts to the 90-day sprint, and let me cover them here for you. And if you have questions, you can always put them in the comments, and I can help answer those. So the first part of a reflection, first part of a 90-day sprint is reflection. And that goes back to that whole point that I was talking about, that we've got to take an inventory of where I am now so I can make a realistic plan based on where I am in reality right now. It's not about shame or guilt or feeling badly about ourselves. It's saying, this is where I am right now. That's where I want to go. How am I going to bridge that gap? So some of the questions that we cover when I work with clients on building their own 90-day sprint is, where have I come from in the last 90 days? What's happened in the last 90 days? They may not have been great. You may have vegged out kind of like I did in the winter time. It was really cold here in Colorado this winter. We spent a lot of time indoors. Okay, so that's where I've been the last 90 days. Where I want to go is 1,000 followers on Instagram, or I want to lose 10 pounds. Okay, that's a big leap from where I was the last 90 days of vegging out and kind of lounging around and being lazy in this winter time. How am I going to bridge that gap? That's a big gap to bridge. Is there something else that I need to become or do in between my laziness of the winter time and wanting to be really working and diving in? I might have to do something in the intermediate to help me get to that place and being able to do that. And reflecting on that and having an honest conversation about it is really going to help you set a realistic goal and set you up for success and build that evidence sheet that I can do this goal and create this change in my life. Then we look at, in our reflection time, where am I right now? Okay, so maybe some things have happened. I am more motivated. I've had some positive things happen in my life. I've gotten some more followers, so I've kind of gotten a taste of what it's like to have followers. So now is a good time to set those goals. And then we obviously look at, where do I want to head in the next 90 days? So that reflection piece is really, really critical. It's different than just setting a goal or setting a New Year's resolution of, hey, I'd love to create this lofty goal and accomplish something great. It grounds us in the reality of where we are and what we need to be doing. Then we're going to do some brainstorming. Once we reflect and we know where we think we want to head, we're going to brainstorm. What do I think I want to focus on for the next 90 days? And in that conversation, a lot of times, something different than what you originally thought will come out as being the most important thing to do. Then once we know kind of where we're headed, we're going to try on for size a wig. Not like a wig on your head, but a wildly important goal, a wig, W-I-G. We're going to dream really big so that then we can get specific about what we want to do. So let's say I want to lose 10 pounds in the next 90 days. That's my wildly important goal. It's really important to me. I need to do this, or I need to get 1,000 followers because that's the next step in building my business. That's a wildly important goal. I don't know if I'm going to reach it or not, but everything I work on for the next 90 days is going to lead me towards that goal. And if I don't meet it in the end, I have at least done all of the work to be ready to do that in my next session. That's not failure. That's setting myself up for success for the future. So after we set that wildly important goal, then we're going to break it down with 3 or 4 goals that help you meet that wildly important goal. Then we're going to work on tracking. How do I track my progress? I know people don't like to do this. We don't like to look at data, and I know a lot of times data can be manipulated, but we're going to work on a tracking system that helps you be very realistic about what you've done and not done, and how do I handle it when I don't do what I said I was going to do. Tracking also involves, how am I going to celebrate? I have personally found that this one is very hard for me. I skip over it. Last week, in fact, I accomplished a huge project that I had been working on for a couple of months. And when I finished that on a Tuesday, the next day, Wednesday, I was like, okay, I'm just going to carry on with my work. And I couldn't. I was tired. I had all these emotions. And what I realized was I hadn't actually acknowledged and celebrated that I had finished this big project. And I needed to do that. So Wednesday was kind of a disaster. And finally on Thursday morning, I was like, okay, I need to celebrate and pause and realize, hey, I really just finished a big project. So we're going to build that celebration into your tracking system. How am I going to stop and pause along the way, not just at the end in 90 days, but along the way, that I'm on my way to doing this, becoming this kind of person. The other part of tracking is, who's going to help me be accountable? We cannot create change. We cannot create a business without help. I have tried it. It's not going to work for you. You need help. You need support. You need a sounding board. You need that person who's going to text you at 6 a.m. and say, did you get up and do your walk this morning? Or the person who's going to text you at 9 o'clock, hey, get off your phone, get off watching TV, and go do the work you said you were going to do to get to 1,000 followers. You need people in your life like that. And so we're going to build that into your tracking. And that's one of the things that I offer my clients, is that we know we need accountability, and I can be that for you. Being a cheerleader and an encourager and igniting action in your life is what I live to do. I love to do that for people, because your success in this is my success, and I just love doing that. So if that's something that you'd like to do, I'd love to chat with you and help you have accountability for what you'd like to accomplish in your 90-day sprint. A couple of other parts of the 90-day sprint are roadblocks. We know in advance that we're going to hit roadblocks. You're not going to be able to go from 0 to 1,000 Instagram followers without some significant roadblocks. So we like to avoid them or pretend like it's not going to happen, and we like to just be really positive. But the reality is we need to plan for them, because they're going to come. You're not going to go from not losing any weight ever to all of a sudden losing 10 pounds without some significant roadblocks. Your brain is actually going to be working against you in this process. So how are we going to overcome that? We need to address those roadblocks up front. How am I going to overcome those? What are they, and how am I going to overcome those? And that's actually what my Facebook Live is going to be about next week. So I'd love to have you join me for that. Then you're going to start carrying out that 90-day plan. And again, you're going to need some help processing how you're going to do this 90-day plan. You're going to do daily check-ins and weekly reviews, because we need to do that tracking. And then you do your whole 90-day plan, and then at the end of the 90 days, we do a quarterly review. We go back, we reflect. What did we learn? How did it go? What were the last 90 days like? Where am I right now? Where do I want to head? And we start that process all over. So those are the basic big parts of a 90-day sprint. You can be very successful on your own doing this, especially if you're highly motivated. But I would love to partner with you if that is something that you would like for your business or for you personally. And I want to talk real briefly before we stop about why having a 90-day sprint is so important, in particular when you're starting a business. When you're starting out in a business, you want to begin that business with habits that are going to carry you to when your business is successful. We aren't going to start doing things later in the future when our business is successful. We're going to start behaving at the very beginning of our business startup as if we're already where we want to be. And we know that people who are very successful set goals, have a plan. They might not do a 90-day sprint in this way, but a 90-day sprint is going to help you be set up for the most success possible in the future. So we start putting in those habits now so that when you are successful and when you are busy and when you have 1,000 followers who are demanding your attention and your time and your energy, you already have this system in place so that when you hit roadblocks, big roadblocks in the future, you can fall back onto a system that you already know works. You've already got it into your muscle memory. Your brain already knows this process works so that when you're busy, when you've got success, when you've got money pouring in your business, you've already got this system established. You'll also have more success faster in your business when you're only working on one thing. I know it seems counterintuitive because especially when you're starting a business, there's 5 million things that you have to do, and that's what's so hard to sort it out. But the reality is we know we can't multitask, and we also know we can't do it all. So doing a 90-day sprint helps us focus in on what we actually need to be doing, what we're good at. It helps us filter out, this isn't my focus. I might need to pay someone else to do that work for me. This process helps delineate that out. This process of a 90-day sprint also helps eliminate distractions. I recently had a client who had very clear goals for this 90-day sprint of what she wanted to work on, and a new opportunity came up. It happens to us all the time in business. A new course opens up, somebody has a freebie, somebody has a training, and we're like, ooh, I want to do that shiny object over here. And oftentimes when we're starting a business, that's what we do. We do this shiny object and then we do this shiny object. And then a year later, it's like we haven't had any progress in our business because all we've done is create motion in our business with all these shiny objects and courses and somebody saying, do this, do that, do this, instead of focusing in on the one thing I need to be working on right now. And that client realized that shiny object was a really good opportunity. It was a good price. It was a good time, but it didn't align with her 90-day sprint. So the answer is no. So it helps us in having this system eliminate distractions and say easily, no, that's not part of my plan. I'm not going to do that right now. I might put it on my pause plan, which is another part of what I help clients with is, here's my pause page. I might want to do that in the future, but it's not the work that I need to be doing right now. The other thing, and I've said this already, is that when you get off your plan, which you will, there will be a shiny object, there will be a new opportunity that pops up and you're like, I just have to do it. And then you realize, oops, that really wasn't what I wanted to be doing. I need to get back. You've got a system to come back to, a plan that's waiting for you when you get off of it to come back into it. And that's going to serve you well over the life of your business. The other thing that a 90-day sprint is great for is it can align with the work that you're already doing. Let's say you already purchased a big course that takes 6 months to complete. A 90-day sprint can help come alongside that course and help you be accountable and create a plan so that you can use both of them simultaneously. A 90-day sprint isn't mutually exclusive from the work that you're already doing. So that's why having a 90-day sprint is so important in your business, especially when you're starting out. So if you have questions, I'd love to have you reach out to me. You can drop them in the comments below and leave me a message there. You can send me a message or write a post in my Facebook group, and I would love to hear from you. And if you would like more information about doing a 90-day sprint yourself or having an accountability partner to do your own 90-day sprint, then I would love to hear from you. I'd love to work with you. I'd love to show you the success that my clients get when they have a 90-day sprint plan. them. And the other thing I would ask of you is that if this training was helpful for you, that you would share it with others. Let them know that I do these trainings. I do them on Mondays at 8 a.m. They're recorded, so you can always catch the replay, and invite them to join the Facebook group so they can have access to these trainings too. Next week, I mentioned the training will be around roadblocks. What are some roadblocks that you might potentially face when you're building a 90-day sprint, and how are you going to overcome them? So I'd love to have you join me next week as well. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you again soon.